Landed property is a very different property. So a quick understanding about landed homes is that landed as a property, whether you are buying for your stay or as an investment, it falls under this quadrant 1 category. Now, quadrant 1 category belongs to properties as a form of asset that are high growth but low rental yield. That is, of course, pulling out from a helicopter view, looking at residential properties as a whole. Of course, if you were to ask me which kind of properties has the best rental yield, I would say that it is HDB apartments. Why? Because the entry price of a HDB apartment is low. And of course, for those of you who have owned 2 properties, if you might be holding 1 HDB and you are holding 1 private property, and of course, some of you might be puzzled, hey, how do you achieve that? Because on the ground, you might have thought that, hey, it's impossible to own a HDB and a private property at the same time. But yes, it is possible. There are various ways of doing it. But in summary, the way to own a HDB and a private property is by 2 ways. Number 1 is that you have to start from the HDB route first. Own a HDB, hold it for 5 years, fulfill the minimum occupation period, and then you can buy a second property, which is a private property. Of course, nobody can own 2 HDB. You can only own 1 as a couple. And even if you're a single person, if you own a HDB resale property when you bought it at age 35, at 40 years old, you can pay ABSD and buy a second property, which is a private home. And then you can move to your private property, you can rent out a HDB. Now, there's also a second way to do it is, of course, using the owner-occupier method. Own the HDB from the start, hold it for 5 years, and of course, the occupier can come out to buy a private property. Of course, that is subjected to, in the event if any HDB rulings change, you have to take note that, of course, this method is subjected to future HDB changes, and the sole discretion belongs to HDB as well. Now, coming back to these 4 quadrants, HDB property belongs to, maybe make a guess which quadrant, and I'll give you probably 5 seconds to just make a guess. Which quadrant does HDB property belongs to? Which quadrant does landed homes belongs to? And then which quadrant does small condo and apartments belongs to? So you're right. If you have guessed Q3, that is correct. HDB properties falls under the category of Q3, quadrant 3. So they belongs to low growth but high rental yield. Now, I'm not talking about the fact that you have waited 5 to 6 years for BTO. Now, if you have bought a BTO, congratulations, because BTO so far, it has performed very well from the date of purchase until the MOP date when you want to exit. MOP date or maybe later, it definitely will have appreciated from your entry price as a BTO until your MOP date. Of course, you might have waited 4 to 5 years for your construction, and you need to stay another 5 years for MOP. All in all, you're waited for about maybe 9 years or 10 years. It will definitely be much higher when you exit compared to your entry price as BTO. I'm talking about the fact that if you were to have purchased a resale HDB, 5 years of MOP period later, in terms of growth rate, it is not as fast as private properties or landed homes. So why are HDB apartments belonging to Q3 is because the overall quantum entry price is low. So for example, if you bought a HDB apartment at 500,000, 6 or 7 or 800,000, but the amount of rental that you collect every month, if you multiply by 12, and we're talking about gross rental yield, of course, there's various calculations to calculate net rental yield because you have to shave off your agency fees, your property tax, your maintenance fee, and all that kind of stuff. But gross rental yield is considered as a very high, usually 4 to 6 or even 7 or 8% in terms of rental yield. Now, when we look at small apartments, some of the small apartments fall under quadrant 3, some of course fall under quadrant 4. But generally speaking, when we talk about landed homes, they fall under quadrant 1 because they are high growth and the entry quantum is high. For example, to get an inter-terrace minimally for a Cat 1 inter-terrace that is meant for rebuild, you're going in at about $3.6 to $4 million for OCR landed home. But the rental yield definitely in conjunction, if you divide by the overall entry price, is going to be lower than a condominium. So condominiums, of course, they either fall under Q1, Q3, Q2, or Q4. And I would say that condominiums fall under all spectrum, depending on, in particular, what kind of projects, what bedroom types, which area, which region are you buying into.